9 keys to make them see you as a luxury and not as an option. When you know your worth, no one can make you feel worthless. This powerful truth lies at the heart of today's message. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where we dive deep into timeless insights to help you rise into your highest self. In this video, we explore 9 essential keys inspired by Carl Jung's teachings that will help you shift how others perceive you from being an option to becoming a luxury. These aren't just tips, they're transformational principles that, when applied, will elevate your energy, self-image, and influence. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop chasing validation and start embodying value? If any part of this speaks to your soul, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more spiritual guidance. 1. Know your intrinsic value. When you stop chasing validation, something inside you begins to settle quietly, powerfully. Carl Jung taught that your wholeness doesn't come from outside approval, but from the integration of your inner truth. That's the difference between someone who demands attention and someone who radiates presence. True worth does not need to be explained, proven, or advertised. It simply exists. And when you recognize that your value is intrinsic, not transactional, you no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone. You start moving differently. Your energy speaks before your words do. You stop showing up as a product, waiting on a shelf for someone to pick you. You stop negotiating your essence for temporary validation. Just like luxury never goes on sale, neither should your soul. The rarest diamonds are found deep underground and valued not because they scream, but because they are. And so are you. In a world obsessed with attention, there's something magnetic about someone who doesn't need it. You become the one who leaves a lasting impact, not by chasing, but by standing still in full self-awareness. You don't become irresistible by being available to everyone. You become unforgettable by being unavailable to what diminishes your spirit. That's the power of embodied self-worth. It teaches others how to treat you without you having to say a word. A woman once spent years trying to be good enough for someone who only saw her as convenient. She gave more, shrank smaller, tolerated longer, until one day she remembered who she was. The moment she chose herself, everything changed. He came back, but it was too late. She had become a version of herself that no longer needed him to see her value because she saw it first. That is when people begin to treat you like a luxury, when you no longer treat yourself like an option. Carl Jung's concept of individuation reminds us that becoming whole requires reclaiming every part of ourselves: the dark, the light, the wild, the soft. You stop molding yourself to fit expectations. You stop hiding your truth to make others comfortable. The moment you own your contradictions is the moment you become magnetic. You become untouchable, not because you're cold, but because you're whole. Wholeness is not perfection. It's integration. It's knowing that you're not here to be edited or explained. You're here to be you. And in that knowing, you draw in people who meet you at your frequency, not because you chase, but because you attract. You set standards, not walls, but gates, through which only the aligned may pass. And you do it all with grace, not force. Because luxury is never loud, it's felt. And those who cannot recognize your gold while it's still unrefined will never deserve to hold you once you shine. Have you ever taken a moment to truly honor your worth without needing anyone else to validate it? If you've already started embracing your intrinsic value, share how it's changed your life in the comments so others can be inspired. If not, comment, "I will honor my worth," to begin this empowering journey today. Let's walk in confidence together. 2. Set unshakable standards. Stop offering yourself at a discount. You are not something to be marked down just to be accepted. Every time you lower your standards for approval or connection, you trade your inner worth for temporary comfort. And that comfort often comes with a heavy cost: self-betrayal. People don't respect what is overly available or easily convinced. They respect what is rare, intentional, and self-assured. When you set the bar low, you invite in those who only aim to meet the minimum. But when your standards are unshakable, you don't just protect your energy, you elevate it. People learn how to treat you by watching what you tolerate. This is not about being harsh or closed off. It's about teaching the world the level at which you expect to be met. When someone speaks over you, cancels on you, or ignores your needs, and you say nothing, you silently permit the behavior to repeat. But when you calmly, consistently enforce boundaries, you reclaim your power. This isn't ego, it's spiritual wisdom. It's the deep inner knowing that your energy is sacred and not up for negotiation. Your silence or acceptance is either a permission slip or a standard. Choose which one you offer. Luxury doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It doesn't explain itself. It simply exists, and its presence speaks louder than words. You must become like that. Stop over-explaining who you are to those committed to misunderstanding you. Let your peace, your consistency, and your standards do the talking. You don't owe access to people who haven't earned the right to walk beside you. Think of luxury brands. They're not placed on bargain racks. Their value is defined not just by what they offer, but by what they refuse to compromise on. Be that energy. Be that frequency. Silent, refined, untouchable. When your standards are high, you don't chase, you filter. You become the gatekeeper of your own peace. Not everyone deserves access to your world. And spiritual wisdom reminds us that energetic boundaries are acts of self-love, not isolation. You're not here to convince others to value you. You're here to remember that your worth was never up for debate in the first place. In Jungian terms, when you honor your wholeness, you stop begging to be seen. You start embodying the truth of who you already are. You don't rise by being louder. You rise by being rooted. The ones who carry themselves with the quiet knowing of their worth move through life differently. They don't rush. They don't explain. They don't apologize for choosing peace over chaos, solitude over shallow company, and standards over desperation. That's what makes you magnetic. Not the performance, not the trying, just the being. And once you align with that truth, you'll realize you were never meant to be an option. You are the rarest thing in the room, the one who doesn't need to be chosen to know they belong. Have you ever lowered your standards just to feel accepted? If so, comment, "No more discounts," to affirm your growth. Let's commit together to setting unshakable standards and teaching the world how we deserve to be treated. 3. Master emotional detachment. Don't react out of fear or desperation, because the moment you do, you hand over your power. In this world, many chase approval, attention, or affection as if their identity depends on it. But true spiritual awakening begins when you realize you are not here to beg for recognition. You are here to embody it. You don't need to be loud to be valuable. Luxury never shouts. It simply is. That's what emotional detachment teaches you. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop letting your feelings control how you show up. You can be hurt, disappointed, even deeply shaken, and still respond with grace. That is the quiet strength of someone who knows their worth. When you master the art of walking away without drama, without resentment, without chasing closure, you stop being someone easy to forget. You become unforgettable. There is an unmatched energy in someone who doesn't flinch when ignored, doesn't chase when misunderstood, and doesn't explain when disrespected. That kind of stillness shakes people more than anger ever could. You're not cold, you're composed. You're not disconnected, you're self-possessed. And that makes you a presence, not just a person. People sense it. They may not say it, but they feel the difference. The mistake most people make is assuming that their emotional outbursts will bring them closer to what they want. But in reality, desperation repels. Composure attracts. In silence, you set the tone. In stillness, you elevate your energy. You're no longer someone who begs to be seen. You're someone they hope to be noticed by. That's the shift. This is the spiritual wisdom hidden in detachment. You free yourself from the grip of needing others to act right in order for you to feel right. You take your power back, not by punishing, not by withholding love, but by centering yourself in your own truth. You become the calm in the storm, the one who sees without overreacting, the one who leaves when love is no longer mutual and never looks back. And when you move like that, people feel it. They feel the gap between your presence and their chaos. They remember how grounded you were when they tried to shake you. And in that remembrance, they realize this wasn't just another person passing through their life. This was someone of depth, of value, of substance. Someone who doesn't need to convince anyone to stay because she knows that luxury doesn't chase. It's chosen. If this message speaks to your soul, don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs to reclaim their peace and power. Let's keep this conversation going. Comment below how emotional detachment has helped you grow, or simply write, "I choose peace." 4. Be less accessible. Availability without boundaries is a fast track to being overlooked. When you're always there, answering texts the moment they arrive, saying yes to every favor, constantly giving your emotional presence without pause, you teach others to expect you, not respect you. In the absence of limits, people forget your worth. But when you become less accessible, when you no longer offer yourself freely to every situation or person, something shifts. You become a mystery, a presence that must be earned, not assumed. And that, in the language of energy, is the beginning of becoming a luxury. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the sacred process of becoming your true self. Part of that journey means protecting your space. It means no longer outsourcing your value to how others treat you, but determining it through how you treat yourself. You are not here to be an emotional vending machine. Your time is not disposable. When you begin to say no without apology, when you respond in your time, not in haste, you send a clear message. I know my worth, and I will not dilute it for convenience. Take the example of Ava. Once the go-to person for everyone's problems, she was exhausted, drained, and invisible. She believed being needed meant being loved. But love built on availability alone is not love, it's dependency. When she finally pulled back, started reserving her energy for those who truly valued her, she noticed a change. The silence of her absence spoke louder than all her previous efforts to be heard. People leaned in, listened harder, and approached her with more care. That's the power of becoming selective. In a world that demands constant response and instant access, restraint is revolutionary. You don't have to be rude or play games. You simply need to honor your energy like it's precious because it is. And when you do, you will notice who still shows up, who still calls, who makes an effort. Rarity creates magnetism. Just like a designer piece on a limited run, your presence becomes unforgettable when it's no longer predictable. Spiritual wisdom teaches that what is sacred must be guarded. Not everything deserves your immediate reaction. Not everyone is entitled to your softness. You begin to transform the moment you realize that your value doesn't come from how often you're available, but from how intentionally you choose to show up. By being less accessible, you make space for depth. You make space for quality connections over quantity interactions. And in doing so, you no longer live to be chosen, you choose. If you're ready to protect your energy and become a rare presence that commands respect, comment below. I am no longer easily accessible. And if this message resonates with you, like the video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more powerful insights. 5. Let silence speak for you. You don't need to explain your worth. In fact, the more you explain, the more you dilute the energy of your presence. Real value is never loud. It is still, it is composed, and it is deeply rooted. The person who radiates calm confidence, who walks into a room without needing to perform, becomes the one who commands attention without even trying. You've likely seen this before, a person who says very little, but somehow everyone leans in. That's not charisma. That's power built on spiritual wisdom and self-possession. Silence, when it comes from inner strength, is more impactful than words. It reflects self-trust. When you stop over-explaining, you stop seeking permission to exist. You allow your energy to speak first, and energy never lies. The need to overtalk, over-justify, or overshare often stems from old wounds, times when you weren't heard, believed, or valued. But luxury doesn't beg to be understood. It simply is. And when you realize this, you shift from being an option to being a standard. Because the one who doesn't chase is the one who is chased. Stillness is a signal of sovereignty. When you are anchored within yourself, you don't need to prove anything. You become magnetic simply by being. The people who are meant for you will recognize your depth in your silence. They'll sense the strength in your restraint, the grace in your pause. This is not passivity, it's energetic clarity. You're no longer available for chaos, for performance, for proving. You've risen into spiritual maturity where your silence speaks louder than noise, where your presence carries more weight than your explanation ever could. People will try to provoke you, pressure you, pull you into explanations. But spiritual wisdom teaches restraint. It teaches discernment. You do not need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to open every emotional invoice that lands in your lap. Not everyone is worthy of access to your truth, and not everyone is equipped to understand your depth. Let them wonder. Let them question. Your silence will either invite reflection or expose their superficiality. Let silence filter your space. Those who recognize your frequency without needing you to speak are aligned with your soul. Those who demand proof are looking for control. There is a sacredness in not needing to correct every misunderstanding. There is power in letting your absence speak volumes where your words would have been wasted. And the more you align with this inner stillness, the more luxurious your energy becomes. This isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming untouchable in your truth. When your worth is no longer up for debate, your life begins to change. You attract differently. You walk differently. You speak less, but are heard more. That is the power of silent self-respect. That is the power of choosing to be a luxury, not a loud performance, not a convenient option, but a quiet, undeniable presence that reshapes every space you enter. If this message speaks to your soul, repeat after me. My silence is powerful. My energy speaks for me. I trust my presence to say what words cannot. Let stillness guide you. And if you're ready to embody calm confidence, like this video and share it with someone who needs this reminder today. 6. Align, don't perform. Stop performing for love. Stop bending, shrinking, and shaping yourself into someone you're not, just to be accepted by people who haven't even earned access to your truth. Every time you silence your voice to be liked, you abandon a piece of your soul. Every time you seek approval more than alignment, you become a performer on a stage built by insecurity. But you are not a performer. You are not a product. You are a soul in evolution, and spiritual awakening demands that you drop the mask. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who they want you to be, not who gets the most applause, who you are raw, imperfect, magnetic in your truth." Alignment is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It's the quiet power of someone who knows they don't have to prove anything. When you start living from that place, you become untouchable. Because your worth no longer depends on anyone's recognition of it. There is a huge difference between being liked and being respected, between being convenient and being valuable. People-pleasing makes you accessible, but alignment makes you rare. And what is rare is often misunderstood at first. That's okay. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be authentic to yourself. You don't owe the world a softer, smaller version of your truth just because it makes others feel more comfortable. Luxury never chases. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't lower its price because someone can't afford it. And you, in your highest form, are that kind of luxury. The kind of presence that makes people pause. The kind of energy that doesn't enter the room trying to prove itself. It simply is. To get there, you must stop molding yourself into what the world wants and start embodying what your spirit is here to express. That is spiritual wisdom. That is power. Let others misunderstand you. Let them question your silence, your boundaries, your standards. Let them call it arrogance, distance, or aloofness. It is none of those things. It is alignment. And when you align, you stop reacting. You stop over-explaining. You stop needing to convince anyone of your worth. You just live, breathe, move, and exist from a place of deep-rooted truth. That is what makes you unforgettable. The more aligned you become, the less you tolerate the noise, the performance, the pressure, the fake smiles, the shallow praise. You begin to crave depth, peace, stillness, and truth. You walk away quicker. You protect your energy faster. You honor your journey without guilt. And that is when you stop being an option and become a standard. Stay rooted in your truth by subscribing to our channel. Here, we don't chase approval. We walk in authenticity. Join our community where your worth isn't measured by performance, but by presence. Remember, you don't need to be liked to rise. You just need to be aligned. 7. Cultivate inner substance. Decorating the outside without healing the inside makes you fragile. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." That single quote holds the secret to true presence. Because no matter how beautiful you look on the surface, if your soul is wounded, your spirit will tremble in silence and others will sense it. A luxury is not defined by what it wears, but by what it carries within. A truly magnetic presence begins with depth, not decoration. Inner substance cannot be faked, it is felt. And people instinctively know the difference between someone who is whole and someone who is pretending to be. Surface beauty may catch attention, but only inner strength holds it. True elegance has nothing to prove. It is rooted in healed wounds, stable energy, and self-respect. If you've never done the inner work, if you've never sat with your pain, listened to your inner child, faced your fears without distractions, then everything you build outside will feel like glass, shiny but easily shattered. You cannot be a sanctuary for others if you are not a safe space within yourself. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that healing is not an aesthetic. It is a quiet revolution inside the soul. You may not post it online, but people will feel it when they're in your presence. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we suppress or deny. Until we confront these shadows, they quietly control our lives. When you deny your pain, you become reactive. When you avoid your past, you repeat it. But when you finally turn inward and do the hard work, journaling, therapy, breathwork, prayer, solitude, you begin to build an unshakable core. That is what makes someone a luxury. Not their smile, but the battles they've won in silence. Not their perfume, but the peace they carry in their chest. There's a woman I know who used to feel invisible. She dressed to impress, kept up with trends, spoke softly to please, yet felt hollow inside. The moment she began her spiritual awakening, cutting ties with people who drained her, embracing silence, and forgiving her past, everything shifted. She no longer begged to be chosen. She became the chooser, and the world noticed. Not because she changed her appearance, but because she changed her energy. This is your reminder. You are not an ornament. You are a force. The more you nourish your soul, the less you need validation. The more you pour love into your own wounds, the less you seek rescuers. And the more whole you become, the more others begin to see you as rare, not because you're loud, but because your stillness speaks volumes. That is inner substance. That is luxury. That is the power Carl Jung knew was born from within. 8. Protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. Your presence is sacred, your peace is rare, and your clarity is powerful. The moment you begin to honor that truth, you start to disrupt the dynamic that others once relied on. People who benefited from your silence, your confusion, your constant availability, they will feel offended when you start drawing boundaries. But that offense isn't your responsibility to fix. It's simply the byproduct of your spiritual awakening. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your growth. When you choose inner peace over pleasing others, when you choose solitude over chaos, when you stop overgiving to prove your worth, you are shifting into your true power. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Becoming that person requires discipline. It requires that you stop giving your sacred energy to people who see you as common. Because what is sacred cannot be shared carelessly. Luxury doesn't chase. It doesn't shout. It doesn't explain itself. It holds its ground and lets the worthy come forward. The same principle applies to your presence. If someone cannot meet you with the same respect, presence, and emotional maturity that you offer, they don't deserve the seat at your table. You are not meant to be a constant in the lives of people who only show up when it's convenient for them. You are not an option. They just don't recognize the rarity standing in front of them. This is not arrogance. It is spiritual wisdom. When you begin to protect your energy, you stop performing for love. You stop negotiating with people who only understand your value when you're gone. You stop making room for those who drain you. And in that sacred act of self-respect, you become magnetic. You become someone whose time, presence, and heart are felt as a privilege, not a right. Your boundaries are not walls, they are gates. And you decide who earns the right to enter. Just like a luxury store doesn't open for everyone, your spirit doesn't have to be available to those who are not emotionally equipped to value it. Walk away from conversations that leave you doubting yourself. Step back from dynamics where you constantly feel unseen. Your peace is your compass. Follow it. The truth is, the more deeply you value your own energy, the less you feel the need to prove anything. You no longer beg for closure. You no longer over-explain. You no longer accept crumbs and call it love. Because you've come home to yourself. You've remembered what it feels like to be full without approval. And that is the ultimate shift from being consumed to being revered. From being picked to being chosen with intention. When you protect your energy, you stop being an option and start being a standard. That's what true transformation looks like. And it all begins with this unshakable decision. Protect what's sacred or watch it be wasted. Have you ever let someone drain your energy only to regret not setting boundaries sooner? If yes, comment, "I've learned," to show you're growing. If not, comment, "I protect my peace," to affirm your strength. Let's walk this path of emotional clarity and self-respect together. 9. Choose yourself always. Stop waiting to be chosen. The moment you place your worth in someone else's hands, you've already handed them the power to overlook you. You are not here to audition for love, approval, or validation. You are here to embody the truth that your existence is already enough. When you begin choosing yourself, not out of pride, but out of spiritual wisdom, you step into the energy of someone who knows their value is not up for negotiation. This is the silent power that turns heads without trying. It is the essence of spiritual awakening, remembering who you are before the world convinced you to doubt it. Walk like your worth is a fact, not a question. Speak with the energy of someone who has nothing to prove but everything to protect. Your self-respect sets the tone before you even open your mouth. It says, "I'm not here to be an option. I am the standard." That shift is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. You stop shrinking to fit into places you've outgrown and start expanding into the life that was always meant for you. People sense when you respect yourself. They feel it. You don't have to announce it or force it. The energy speaks for you. When you honor your needs, protect your peace, and walk away from what drains your spirit, you become a mirror that reflects back what others refuse to face in themselves. That's why choosing yourself is not just a mindset, it's a frequency. And when you hold that frequency, the wrong ones will fall away, and the right ones will rise to meet you. A luxury item doesn't chase buyers. It simply exists in its worth. The same goes for you. You are not on sale. You are not for everyone. And that's the point. You were never meant to be universally understood or accepted. You were meant to be authentic, radiant, whole. When you stop discounting yourself for the sake of belonging, you begin to attract the people, spaces, and opportunities that recognize your value without needing an explanation. Choosing yourself means not settling for crumbs when your soul knows it was designed for a feast. It means protecting your boundaries even when it disappoints others. It means being okay with not being liked as long as you are being true. Because at the end of the day, no one else is responsible for your fulfillment but you. And no one else has the right to define your worth unless you let them. The more you honor your own energy, the more the universe conspires to honor it too. This is not wishful thinking, it's energetic law. What you embody is what you attract. So embody reverence, embody clarity, embody that quiet knowing that says, I choose me. And by doing so, I teach the world to do the same. If this message reminded you to choose yourself first, drop a comment below. I honor my worth. I choose myself boldly and without apology. And if this speaks to your journey, like this video and subscribe for more messages that awaken your inner power. And remember this, true luxury doesn't beg to be seen. It simply is. When you embrace your worth, you stop chasing and start attracting. These 9 keys aren't just tips. They are invitations to live with clarity, intention, and deep self-respect. Let your energy speak louder than your words, and the right people will recognize your value without needing an explanation. If this message has resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more soul-stirring insights. Tap the notification bell so you won't miss the next step on your journey to personal power and spiritual growth. Stay radiant. Stay rare. You are luxury. The 6 dangerous people Carl Jung says you must avoid. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. In today's video from Spiritual Wisdom, we're diving deep into a powerful message from Jung that could change the way you protect your energy and peace. Jung warned us about 6 types of people whose hidden behaviors can drain your spirit, distort your path, and quietly sabotage your growth. Are any of them in your life right now? As you watch, reflect on your relationships, then comment below. I choose peace over chaos. Your story might just help someone else awaken too. Let's explore this together. 1. The unconscious manipulator. The unconscious manipulator is one of the most dangerous people you can encounter, not because they intend to harm you, but because they don't know they're doing it. Beneath the surface of their charm and emotional depth lies a pattern of hidden projections and unresolved wounds. They carry pain they've never faced, and instead of processing that pain within, they unknowingly hand it to you. You become their emotional mirror, their savior, their energetic sponge. This person doesn't necessarily shout about their suffering. Often, they whisper it through subtle behaviors, passive remarks, victimhood cloaked in vulnerability, and silent expectations that you carry what they refuse to confront. You find yourself feeling responsible for their well-being, even though you never agreed to that contract. You start doubting your instincts, second-guessing your boundaries, and slowly, your emotional clarity becomes fogged with their inner chaos. They don't just want attention, they crave energetic hosting. You become a character in their inner drama without realizing you've been cast. They draw you in with sincerity, maybe even affection. You care for them. You try to help. You tell yourself they're just going through something, and maybe if you love them enough, they'll heal. But what's really happening is far more spiritual than psychological. They are projecting what they refuse to see in themselves onto you, and through that projection, they feed off your emotional strength. Carl Jung called this the danger of projection. When someone refuses to integrate their shadow, the guilt, the shame, the fear they cast those disowned pieces outward, you're not interacting with their truth, you're engaging with a distortion. And because it's unconscious, it escapes logic and bypasses confrontation. You can't talk them out of it because they don't even know it's happening. That's what makes it spiritually treacherous. It feels like love, but it's really a psychic entanglement disguised as compassion. You begin to notice how drained you feel after every interaction. Your energy dips, but your guilt spikes. You feel obligated, even when you want to pull away. You begin carrying their burdens without knowing where yours end and theirs begin. In spiritual wisdom, this is a form of energetic trespassing when someone unconsciously invades your field with their unhealed wounds and makes your soul responsible for their unconscious healing. True love doesn't require you to lose yourself. True connection doesn't ask you to abandon your clarity. When you find yourself constantly rescuing, over-explaining, or walking on emotional eggshells, you must stop and ask, is this real love? Or is this trauma trying to reenact itself in disguise? You are not here to be someone's emotional landfill. You are here to evolve. You are here to awaken. And spiritual growth demands that you recognize when your empathy is being weaponized against you. Some connections aren't sacred. They're spiritual lessons in disguise. You're not being cruel by walking away. You're honoring your soul. And sometimes, the most healing thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling the very patterns that are keeping them stuck. It's not your job to carry what they refuse to hold. Let go. Not with resentment, but with truth. Because as Jung wisely said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And your fate is far too precious to be entangled in someone else's denial. Have you ever found yourself emotionally drained after helping someone who never truly wants to heal? If so, share your story in the comments so others can relate and learn. If not, comment, I will protect my energy to commit to setting healthy boundaries and reclaiming your peace. Let's support each other on this journey of awareness and emotional freedom. 2. The bearer of the persona. The bearer of the persona is someone who has become a polished illusion so deeply attached to their social mask that they forget it's a mask at all. Polite, composed, and seemingly perfect, they navigate life as if it were a stage. Every gesture is rehearsed, every word filtered through the lens of public approval. But beneath that shiny surface, there is no spontaneity, no raw emotion, no truth. Carl Jung warned us of this kind of person, not because they are outwardly cruel, but because their subtle influence suffocates authenticity, both theirs and yours. When someone clings to their persona, vulnerability becomes threatening. They avoid emotional truth, not only in themselves, but in everyone around them. Instead of connection, they offer performance. Instead of presence, they offer presentation. They pressure others to match their polished facade, to uphold the same image-driven reality they inhabit. In time, you find yourself performing too smiling when you're hurting, nodding when you disagree, suppressing your own emotional depth so you don't disrupt their surface-level harmony. This dynamic is more than uncomfortable. It's spiritually dangerous. Carl Jung believed that the path to individuation, the journey toward becoming your whole self, demands truth, courage, and the willingness to embrace all that is raw and real within you. But the bearer of the persona blocks that path. Their mask isn't just their own burden, it becomes yours too. Being around them creates a quiet, creeping distortion. You forget what it's like to speak from the heart. You trade emotional honesty for acceptance. You dim your light to fit inside their glass cage of perfection. It happens slowly. Like Emily, a rising professional who admired her manager's composure. He was poised and graceful in meetings, always said the right thing, always looked the part. But as months passed, Emily realized she was no longer speaking up. She avoided sharing bold ideas. She began overthinking every conversation, worried about how she'd be perceived. Without realizing it, she had begun to wear her own mask, one that reflected his. What seemed like mentorship turned out to be mimicry. His emotional distance had spread like smoke, clouding her confidence. That's the silent danger Carl Jung wanted us to see. A person who lives entirely in their persona lives disconnected from their soul, and being in their presence can pull you away from yours. There's no joy in a relationship where everything must be filtered, every truth softened, every instinct restrained. What looks like grace may be repression. What feels like order may be a lack of inner freedom. And when you mirror their persona too long, your spirit begins to whisper, "This is not who I am." Spiritual wisdom teaches that to grow, we must surround ourselves with those who welcome truth, who allow us to be messy, tender, real. A person buried in their persona cannot give you that space. They can only give you a mirror for their mask. And if you're not careful, you'll wear it so long, you'll forget your own face. Are you ready to take off the mask and live as your true self? If so, comment below. I choose authenticity to affirm your commitment to inner truth and self-liberation. Let's break free from performance and walk the path of individuation together. 3. The owner of the repressed shadow. They appear calm, collected, and morally upright, always composed, always in control. You might even admire them. But behind this polished mask hides a psychological storm waiting to break loose. Carl Jung called them the owners of the repressed shadow people, who reject the parts of themselves they deem unacceptable. They suppress their anger, their envy, their desires, even their sadness, not because they are above these emotions, but because they fear them. They fear what these feelings say about who they are. And so, they bury them deep in the unconscious, pretending they don't exist. But the shadow doesn't vanish. It accumulates. Every unspoken truth, every feeling swallowed instead of expressed, becomes fuel for a silent fire. Jung warned that the unconscious, when ignored, doesn't stay passive. It grows in power, waiting for a crack in the surface. And when that crack comes, it doesn't whisper, it explodes. A small comment, a moment of stress, or someone else's emotional honesty can suddenly trigger a sharp and disproportionate outburst. You'll be caught off guard, wondering what just happened. And it won't be a one-time event. Living with someone like this is like walking across a psychological minefield. Everything seems fine until it isn't. These individuals are often the first to shame or criticize others for showing emotion. They see vulnerability as weakness, passion as instability. But what they truly despise in others is what they've never allowed themselves to feel. Their criticism is not insight, it's projection. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But for the repressed shadow, there is no reflection, only rejection. They do not see their emotional wounds. They only see your reactions. What makes this dynamic so toxic is that it distorts your sense of reality. You might begin to feel emotionally small around them. You hesitate to speak your truth. You second-guess your feelings. Slowly, you start to wonder, am I overreacting? Am I too sensitive? But it's not you. It's the weight of their unprocessed darkness pressing down on your light. The shadow, Jung taught, is not just a container for evil. It's also the hiding place of your creativity, your strength, your deepest potential. When someone represses it, they don't just lose access to their pain, they lose access to their power. And that loss poisons their relationships. Because intimacy requires authenticity. Connection requires vulnerability. And those who live in denial of their shadow cannot offer either. Spiritual awakening demands that we see clearly, both in others and within ourselves. Not everyone who seems peaceful is truly at peace. Not everyone who looks stable is emotionally safe. You must learn to sense what lies beneath the surface. You must honor your own emotional truth, even when someone else cannot hold it. Because the journey to inner freedom begins where suppression ends. And the greatest act of spiritual wisdom is to choose relationships where your soul can breathe. If you're ready to face your own shadow with honesty and courage, and to stop absorbing the emotional fallout of others' repression, comment below, "I choose emotional truth." Let's walk this path of healing and self-integration together. 4. The moral controller. The moral controller is one of the most deceptive dangers Carl Jung warned us about because they don't wear the face of a villain. Instead, they come cloaked in virtue. They speak as though they are protecting the good, upholding truth, or guiding others to become better. But beneath that polished exterior is a deep psychological defense, projection. Jung's spiritual wisdom reveals that those who obsess over morality often do so because they cannot face their own unconscious impulses. They condemn others not out of love, but to avoid confronting their own shadow. In doing so, they turn morality into a weapon, not a compass, and use guilt as a method of control. They don't shout or attack outright. They suggest. They imply. They say things like, "I'm just concerned," or "I'm only trying to help." But the help always comes with shame. You begin to feel wrong for simply being yourself. Your laughter is too loud. Your ideas are too rebellious. Your joy is too much. Over time, you shrink not because you're bad, but because you've been made to feel bad for being human. Jung emphasized that excessive moralism is often a sign of internal repression. The more someone tries to control your behavior through moral critique, the more likely they are running from their own unresolved darkness. This is especially dangerous in families, where love is supposed to be unconditional. But for the moral controller, love becomes conditional on obedience. The child who is free-spirited, emotional, or curious becomes a threat. They're punished, not for wrongdoing, but for disturbing the parent's fragile inner image of order. In religion, the same pattern repeats. The moral controller uses doctrine not to heal, but to shame. They quote sacred texts, but forget the spirit behind them. Instead of guiding souls to freedom, they bind them in fear. The result is not spiritual awakening. It is suppression, fear, and performance. In strict institutions or belief systems, the moral controller enforces conformity. Individuality becomes a crime. Self-expression is labeled selfish. Dissent is rebellion against truth. Jung's teaching on individuation becomes essential here. The path to wholeness is not about fitting into a mold. It is about integrating all parts of ourselves, including the messy, complex, and emotional aspects that moral controllers want to erase. True spiritual wisdom embraces this paradox. It sees that growth comes not through perfection, but through honesty with our shadow. You'll know you're in the presence of a moral controller when you constantly feel small, guilty, or like you're walking on eggshells. Their energy doesn't invite authenticity. It demands compliance. And yet, they rarely see themselves as controlling. They think they're righteous. That's the most dangerous part. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The moral controller is being directed by their unconscious, and until they face it, they will try to direct yours. Trust your inner compass. True morality uplifts. It does not humiliate. It liberates. It does not bind. It comes from awareness, not projection. When morality is used to shame rather than to guide with compassion, it has ceased to be moral. If this message helped you see the hidden dynamics of moral control, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's break free from shame-based systems and support each other on the path to deeper self-awareness and true spiritual wisdom. 5. The complexed person. The complexed person lives in a constant storm of unresolved emotional wounds, often hidden beneath a surface of charm or sensitivity. One day, they're warm and affectionate. The next, they're cold, irrational, or unpredictably angry. This instability isn't just confusing. It pulls you into their inner chaos. You begin shrinking yourself, tiptoeing around their triggers, and carrying the emotional weight they refuse to face. The more you try to create peace, the more you lose pieces of yourself. Carl Jung described these individuals as being dominated by complexes, psychic fragments formed by trauma. These complexes, according to Jung, function like splinter personalities. They can hijack the person's behavior and emotions, making them act in ways that seem completely disconnected from the present moment. You're not interacting with the adult in front of you. You're confronting their abandoned pain, their rejected self, their unhealed memories. And the more unconscious these complexes are, the more powerful and destructive they become. In daily life, this shows up as emotional whiplash. One moment they're praising you, The next, they're tearing you down for a slight that never existed. You're accused of being insensitive, unloving, or distant simply because their inner wounds are speaking louder than reality. You begin to feel like you're always doing damage control. But no matter how careful you are, it's never enough. You start to question yourself, your intentions, even your worth. That's the power of a complexed person. They don't just cause confusion, they make you doubt your truth. Spiritual wisdom calls us to compassion, but also to discernment. You can hold space for someone's pain, but you cannot let it become your prison. You are not the antidote to their trauma. You are not responsible for the healing they refuse to do. Carl Jung warned that when someone refuses to confront their unconscious, that unconscious will control them and in turn harm others. These people are not evil, but they are unsafe until they become aware. In today's world, these individuals might be colleagues, partners, even family members. You may think you're helping by staying, by softening, by sacrificing. But emotional instability, when repeated and unchecked, becomes a form of manipulation, whether intentional or not. Every time you deny your own needs to avoid triggering theirs, you abandon your own center. Every time you excuse their chaos, you normalize the erosion of your peace. The truth is, you cannot love someone into healing. You cannot stabilize someone who hasn't chosen to become whole. And you cannot continue shrinking just to make someone else feel big. As Jung taught, the work of integrating one's shadow, one's trauma, is deeply personal. No one can do it for you, and no one should suffer because you've refused to. The complex person isn't dangerous because they're broken. They're dangerous because they're unaware. An unconscious pain will always look for someone else to carry it. Don't let that someone be you. If you've made it this far, comment below, "I'm staying aware," to show your presence and focus. Your voice matters. Every comment helps us grow this space for healing, clarity, and spiritual insight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this message spoke to you. 6. The psychic vampire. A psychic vampire doesn't always come cloaked in darkness. Often, they arrive in the form of a friend, a partner, or even a family member, someone who appears emotionally fragile, always in need, constantly seeking attention, validation, or comfort. At first, you respond with compassion. You listen, you offer support, you show up. But slowly, something shifts. Without realizing it, you begin to feel tired after every interaction, confused about where your energy went, guilty for wanting space. This is not a coincidence, it's a pattern. Psychic vampires don't want to grow or heal. They want to be carried. And it's always you who ends up doing the heavy lifting. Carl Jung observed this deeply destructive dynamic and offered spiritual wisdom that pierces through the illusion. He believed that psychic vampires are individuals who have failed to individuate, who have not yet awakened spiritually to their own inner self. Instead of drawing strength from within, they latch onto others, feeding off emotional energy like it's their only lifeline. Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And this avoidance, this refusal to go inward, makes them cling outward to you. They don't see you as a person. They see you as a source. You'll notice that they often play the victim, subtly manipulating others through guilt, tears, or helplessness. They may not even realize they're doing it, but the result is the same: a toxic symbiosis. where your role becomes to emotionally rescue someone who never truly wants to be rescued. You feel responsible for their sadness, obligated to respond to every emotional crisis, expected to drop everything just to keep them afloat. Over time, this dynamic dissolves your sense of self. You stop asking, "What do I feel?" because you're too busy trying to manage what they feel. Spiritual awakening is not just about enlightenment. It's also about recognizing what dims your light. And nothing does that more quietly than a psychic vampire. They don't scream. They sigh. They don't demand. They imply. But make no mistake, the damage is real. The exhaustion, the anxiety, the emotional depletion, these are signs that your energy field is being drained. And if you ignore those signs for too long, you begin to lose touch with your own center. You begin to confuse overgiving with kindness, guilt with love, sacrifice with purpose. In truth, protecting your energy is not selfish. It's sacred. Jung's spiritual wisdom reminds us that real healing can only happen when a person faces their own unconscious shadow. If they refuse to do that inner work, no amount of your compassion will fill that void. You are not responsible for someone else's refusal to awaken. Your light is not meant to keep another person's darkness at bay. You are meant to walk your own path, not carry someone who won't move their feet. If someone in your life leaves you feeling consistently drained, confused, or guilty, listen to that feeling. It's not weakness, it's your soul speaking. And your soul knows when it's being robbed of its light. If this message has helped you recognize the hidden drainers in your life, leave a comment of awareness. I protect my energy and honor my peace. Your story might be the light someone else needs to finally break free. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another insight on your path to spiritual wisdom and emotional freedom. Thank you for joining us on this eye-opening journey through Carl Jung's timeless wisdom. The people we allow into our lives shape not only our mindset, but also our destiny. By becoming aware of these dangerous personality types, you're already taking a powerful step toward protecting your peace and preserving your energy. If you found this message valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a moment of clarity, growth, and transformation in our upcoming videos. Stay mindful, stay empowered, and as always, protect your spirit